living life is stage. Hey, hey, living life is stage. Hey, hey, living life is stage. Hey, hey, living life is stage. Hey.
Hey Lifer Tribe, welcome back to another video, Living Life with Stae. And if you're new to the channel, welcome, and thank you so much for being here. And since you're here, please consider hitting that subscribe button and becoming a permanent part of this Lifer Tribe. So to a lot of you, this is going to sound crazy, but I just need you to bear with me, just follow the process. But did you realize that your planning could be leading to your procrastination, and the fact that you plan and put so much into things and so much time and so far in advance could be the very reason why you're not reaching your goals and getting to that level of success that you desire? And the reason is because the more we plan, the more likely it is for us to put things off. Because planning usually entails, for many of us, giving ourselves a lot of advance time to do things. So you may be in January already planning for things in November, which means that in January you have the best intentions and you want to get ahead of things, but life starts to happen, and so then you start putting things off because you feel like, that's exactly why I start planning so far ahead, because things might happen. But then something else happens and something else happens, and then you may even forget about what you were planning for November. And so before you know it, you're into September or even October, and now you're rushing. And so I have chosen in my life to kind of plan things quarter by quarter. I don't get too far ahead of myself because I am definitely one of those people. The more time I have, the more time I'm going to take. And so I'm not one of those people who start getting ready for an event or a meeting 2 or 3 hours before, because then I'm going to run out of time, because I'm like, oh, I still have 3 hours. Oh, I still have 2.5 hours. I can do something else. I can do something else. And then the next thing you know, I'm rushing and I'm running late. So in my whole life, is whether it's something social, whether it's something for business, an event, if I'm on a committee, whatever it is, I give myself just enough time to do whatever the project is that I need to do. So if I know for a fact that it's going to take me 40 minutes to get dressed and then I need 20 minutes to drive somewhere, I'm only giving myself that hour. Because I know if I give myself any more than that hour, I'm going to start adding other stuff into my time that's then going to make me be behind. And so the way I do it in business is I sit down in the very beginning of each quarter. So we're coming up on quarter 2. I'm going to sit down probably next week or so and figure out what I need to achieve business-wise for this second quarter. And I'm going to start planning those things, and I'm going to start working on those things just for that quarter. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't have bigger goals that might take a longer amount of time. Of course, everything's not going to be able to happen quarter by quarter, but I only give a lot of time to those things that are going to take a lot of time. And even with those bigger goals that are going to take more time than just that quarter, I'm still going to break those down into small bite-sized chunks where I'm going to handle this portion of it in this quarter, I'm going to handle this portion in the next quarter, and I give myself reasonable, obtainable goals, but keeping in mind that I don't want to give myself too much time. I think that planning sometimes is a little overrated when people start to think that you need to know in the very beginning of the year every single thing that you want to achieve for the year, because things change throughout the year. Your mind changes, economics change, you may have a change in job, you may have a change in where you live, life happens, and so it can be kind of frustrating to have all of these plans at the beginning of the year when you didn't plan for all of the changes that were out of your control. So it also cuts back on my frustration level when I just decide to plan quarter by quarter. People feel like fail to plan, plan to fail. And so they look at some of the ways that I do things and they're like, that's never going to work. There's no way that I'm going to figure out each quarter what I need to do. But the thing is, most of your goals and most of your plans when you're in business are going to pretty much be the same thing. It's just packaged a little bit differently. When you're in a specific business, you know on the broad scope of what it is that you're trying to achieve. You know the impact you want to make. You know the connections that you're trying to make. And so it's just breaking things down so that you're not giving yourself so much time that things get forgotten and things get lost in the shuffle, or you spend too much time on one specific goal that you're leaving a lot of other ideas and a lot of other opportunities off the table because you're laser focused on this one thing. And so when you break things down quarter by quarter in these bite-sized chunks, it gives you a better opportunity to actually evaluate what is working, what's not working, what is it that I still need to be doing, and what can maybe be shifted or what's different. Is my business model the same as it was in the beginning of the year, or do I need to think about possibly bringing something else into the business or taking something away? When you break things down into these small bite-sized chunks, it really gives you like this bird's eye view of exactly what you're doing. When you try to make a plan in the very beginning of the year and then stick to that throughout the year, you're not even really having the opportunity to say, okay, well, how did that work? Because you're still trying to figure it out. You're still reaching the goal because you figure, oh, I have until December for this to work. And so you never really evaluate, is this something that I really need to be doing? Is this something I'm really passionate about? Is this something that's really working for my business? Is this something that's really working for my content? If you just come up with one idea, one goal, and you're working it, you can end up spending 12 months working on something that wasn't even working, if that makes sense. And so I like the idea of breaking it down into quarters, because already now at the end of March, I can start looking at things and evaluating how things went January, February, and March, and decide how much of this do I want to keep? Am I still tracking with the same ideas that I had in the beginning? Do I need to do something differently? Because I feel that a lot of times we get defeated and we don't reach our goals because we're frustrated with putting in tons and tons of time and not seeing the results that we expected, when if we track it in smaller bits of time, we won't waste time doing something for longer than we need it to. So in business, in content creation, it's always going to be a lot of trial and error, but you don't want to spend so much time in the trial phase that it takes you forever to catch the errors. So I hope that makes sense. But it's the whole reason why I kind of take issue with the vision boards in January. And I know I've discussed that with y'all before, but it just doesn't make sense for me and how I do things and the way my brain works to sit down and put a year's full of goals on one board and expect myself to stick to this and only do these things. I don't know about y'all, but my mind changes a lot within a year. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you unstable. It doesn't mean that you're unprofessional. It doesn't mean that you're not in touch with your goals or that you can't stay focused when you change your mind. Because life changes, we grow and we evolve as people. Circumstance changes, situations change. And one big thing about being an entrepreneur, about being a content creator, is you have to learn to be flexible. Flexibility is a soft skill that is so needed in this entrepreneurial journey, because we don't always have control over the outside things that are going to affect our business, that's going to affect our content. And if you get so locked in on the beginning of the year, when these different things start to happen, you get lost, and then that leads to frustration, and frustration leads to burnout, and burnout leads to just giving up. And so it is never my desire to see any of you give up. I know that I'm not going to give up. So what I have done is just created processes and procedures and ways that I do things to make it less likely that I'll ever give up. I give myself the opportunity to try things. I give myself the opportunity to evaluate things. I don't lock myself into just one idea, one plan for the year. I evaluate things throughout the year. If I need to change things, if I need to pivot, then I'm able to make room and make adjustments for that because I'm not locked in. As we were able to see during the COVID times, it was so important as an entrepreneur, just as a human being during those times, to be able to pivot, to be able to think differently. And when you're in that process of pivoting and making changes, a lot of times you figure out things that it's like, why wasn't I doing it like this all the time? So don't be afraid to change and adjust and do something different, because you may happen up on the best idea you've ever had. Whereas if you get locked in and you're laser focused on one thing and one way of doing it, you may miss out on some great opportunities for growth. And so now in this current environment that we have politically, I compare it a lot to the COVID times. We are unsure from day to day. What are we going to be able to do? What are we not going to be able to do? What resources are available? What resources are not going to be available anymore? For entrepreneurs, for content creators, realize that the things that are going on now politically are going to affect you, especially if you're a minority. As a minority business owner, I'm a double minority. I'm a Black business owner. I'm a woman business owner. There are a lot of resources that were available for me just 6 months ago that are no longer available for me now. And if I was only locked in on one way of doing things, one way of getting my funding, only certain businesses that I was going to collaborate with, I'd be in a world of trouble right now. If I was only depending on my minority certifications, I would be in trouble right now. But because I've set my business model up and my mindset in a way where I am constantly looking at different things, I'm not locking into any one way of doing things. I'm not carrying the same goals and the same plan from January 1st all the way to December 31st. When things like this happen, it makes it just that much easier to navigate, because I already have that mindset of pivot, flexibility, do what I need to do depending on the circumstances, so I don't get frustrated and I don't get burned out. So hopefully something I've said has helped someone, has been of value to you. If you felt like you needed to be locked in on those January 1 goals and that was all you were going to work through, give yourself a break. Give yourself that opportunity at the end of March to evaluate the first part of the year. See how those things work for you. If you already made a vision board, look at that vision board, reevaluate it at the end of March, and see if those visions, if those goals still make sense for your life and what you have going on. And if it doesn't, change it. Do something different, and continue to do that every 3 months. Sometimes you're going to make a lot of changes. Sometimes you'll look at it and everything's on track and you don't have to change anything. But as long as you give yourself that opportunity, as long as you give yourself that breathing room, you're going to find it a lot easier to reach your goals and eventually get to that next level of success that you desire and you deserve. And as always, if you want to take a deeper dive in, if you would like to sit down with me one-on-one and let me help you kind of go through these quarterly goals, you can reach out to me at my website at www.staehall.com, and we can get a complimentary consultation on the calendar, and hopefully I'll be able to help you during this content creation entrepreneurial journey. And y'all know the drill. I love and appreciate each and every one of you to bits and pieces. Always be kind and love one another, but don't forget to live your life. LYFE. Love yourself first explicitly. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.
Living like a Stae. Hey, hey. 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 Love yourself first, explicitly. You owe it to yourself to move with that energy. Empower your self-esteem. Self-love is king. That's the only way to win. That's how you empower your dream. Living like a